So, what are the biggest challenges in total joint replacement, especially knee replacements, which I normally do? A, we need the implants to last longer, increased functional demands of patients. That means the joint has to be put in perfectly in good alignment, and we make sure that we use good implants, balance the soft tissues well, so that we get perfect function in patients. There should be no mid-flexion instability. Patients should be able to arise from chair effortlessly, climb up and down stairs, go in the public transport freely, climb buses, trains, alight from them. And nowadays, patient expectations are higher. I mean, there are patients who've never sat on the floor for last 10 years due to the disease, but they want to do that once the surgery is done. Now, one thing I always tell my patients is that the post-operative range of movement depends on how much movement you have before the surgery. If you have movement like 10-degree flexion, further flexion, 50 degrees, 60 degrees, then it's unlikely in the post-operative period you'll get about 100, more than 100, or maybe 90 degrees, because the soft tissues are already shortened. But yes, they definitely get much more movement after the surgery once we do the soft tissue releases and balance the knee properly. So, over the last 2 decades, a lot of things have been going on to make this surgery a success. Alternative bearings have been made, less invasive surgical procedures, more aggressive physiotherapy and rehab protocols, improved perioperative pain control. So, out of all these, no matter what implant you use, what newer material you use, you may use navigation or you may use robotic surgery. Ultimately, the patient has to recover quickly, get minimal pain, and get maximum movement and function as soon as possible. I remember when we started knee replacement surgery, patients would take 2 months to recover. And now, with the rapid recovery protocol, patients are recovering in 2 to 3 weeks fully. So, the pain management is for what? It is for good patient satisfaction, early and good post operative function, good clinical outcomes, and should be reproducible. So, initially, what were we doing? Mild pain, we would give opioids. Moderate pain, we would give some more opioids. Severe pain, we would give some more opioids, and this would go on and on. The entire trend now is to move away from opioids, is going towards nerve blocks, regional anesthesia, and various blocks which are now we are routinely using, which has totally changed the way the patients recover. So, if you see the adverse effects of opioids, it's been studied in a number of cases. We have GI side effects, CNS side effects, pruritus, urinary retention. This is a problem in patients who've got a prostate, who've not yet had surgery, respiratory depression. So, the whole world is now moving away from opioids. So, we've been looking for alternative methods of pain management. So now this is the concept of multimodal pain concept, simultaneously target multiple systems. So mild pains, we NSAIDs, moderate pains, some more NSAIDs plus opioid, severe pain, all of the above plus local anesthetic block plus sustained release analgesics. We want to move away from all this. So several studies demonstrate benefit of multimodal pain protocols following TKR. Better pain control, better patient satisfaction, lower overall narcotic consumption, shorter hospital stay, improved post-operative function, less complications of narcotic consumption. So the night of the surgery, normally we give our patients 100 to 200 milligram of gabapentin and Atrovax 90 milligram. This is routine. Patients who have good kidney function and don't have sleep apnea or other respiratory problems. We avoid it in obese patients, the gabapentin specifically. So on the morning of surgery, once the patient is wheeled in, we give a single shot spinal anesthesia. Even for bilateral knee replacements, now we managed to finish it in a single shot spinal anesthesia. I usually give 8 milligram dexamethasone IV, one dose. We avoid Foley's catheter totally. Immediately after surgery, we now have an ultrasound machine dedicated for the operation theater. The machine come in and all our anesthetists are trained and they do the adductor canal block brilliantly. So there are two ways to give an adductor canal block. One is a simple block, you put it in and forget it. The other is you can attach it to a Baxter pump and continuously release analgesics onto the nerve. We also do an intra-articular infiltration with cocktails of drug into all the tissues that are cut and that are going to stretch, which can cause pain to the patient. We also make steroids in this infiltration if the patient is not a diabetic. Gabapentin and Atrovax normally 2 to 3 days we continue. Paracetamol drip SOS. Tourniquet. Also now we are using lower pressures than what we used to use before. Even that helps in pain management. So we use 100 milligram more pressure than the systolic BP. So these are the drugs we generally use in local infiltration into the knee. This is what we've been using for a long time and works very well for us. We also add antibiotics, steroid, and we make a total volume of 100 to 120 ml and then infiltrate it into all the tissues that we've cut. And all the tissues that are going to stretch, which can cause pain, like the posterior capsule and quadriceps tendon, medial tissues which we release during a varus knee. And this seems to have helped a lot as well. So this is a patient of ours where we've given a bilateral adductor canal block after a bilateral knee replacement. We finished it under a single spinal anesthesia. And these blocks are connected to Baxter pumps with a solution built in by anesthetist, which goes on dropping the analgesic directly onto the nerve. As a result, our patients, once the drain is out in 12 hours, start walking without feeling any pain. The beauty of this block is that there is no motor weakness. It just takes away the pain. And I generally keep it for 48 hours. And by the 48 hours, the patients most of them get about 90-degree knee flexion. So even the post-op physiotherapy that they do at home is much easier. They get less pain, as most of the hard work is done while the patient is under the block. And since we've started using this, our patients recover in 2 to 3 weeks fully. I definitely recommend physiotherapy after surgery. I do not like my patients walking around with weak muscles. They tend to fall, they tend to come back with mild flexion deformities, or they may be stiff when they come back. Some supervision is needed at home. So the day after the knee drain is removed, so that the patient doesn't get a hematoma, we give a compression dressing. The patient is mobilized with a walker after a check X-ray, and we use continuous infiltration via a Baxter pump. Ice compression twice a day on the sides of the knee. Patients who are apprehensive or have a low pain threshold, we can start them on some mood elevators, and that helps them a lot as well. So 48 hours is the adductor canal time. Sometimes in patients who have a low pain threshold, I've kept it for 3 days as well. But on the third day, most of the patients of a single knee go home, and on the fourth day, the bilateral knee patients go home. So we try to remove it at least 12 to 24 hours before they go home, so that we can manage and set their analgesia for home use. So after following this protocol, our patients go home third to fourth day after surgery. They're usually on Crocin, Lanol ER, extended release. Some take Ultracet Semi as well, twice a day, Pan 40 if they've got acidity. All the above for 2 weeks while the physiotherapy is going on. We continue with ice packs and before and after physiotherapy.